Hello, good morning all. We are live now.
Shall we start?
Yes.
Shall I start, sir?
Yes,
Bandi,
sir. Please go, ma'am. Yes, please go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. A very happy and healthy good morning to all. Myself, Dr. Mrs. Sugandha Mulgun, Assistant Professor, Department of Pharmaceutical Chemistry, Sinhagad College of Pharmacy, welcome you all for the 2 days national level webinar on drug discovery, transforming idea into innovations and startups. Before we begin our session, let us have a quick glimpse about Sinhagad Technical Education Society and Sinhagad College of Pharmacy, Vadgaon, Pune.
When it comes to education, there is only one institution that prepares you for the new millennium. When it comes to knowledge, there is only one name that inspires the passion to acquire it. When it comes to training, there is only one foundation that hones the talent. To become what you dream of, you begin Sinhagad. Sinhagad Institutes, empowering academic excellence.
We now see more about Sinhagad College of Pharmacy, Vadgaon. Sinhagad College of Pharmacy, Vadgaon was established in the year 2000 under the dynamic and visionary leadership of Professor M.N. Navle sir, Founder President, and Founder Secretary Madam Dr. Mrs. Sunanda M. Navle. We get timely support and encouragement from Mr. Rohit M. Navle sir, Vice President HR, and Mrs. Rachna Navle Astekar Madam, Vice President Admin. The institution is headed by our principal, Dr. K.N. Gujar sir. We are affiliated to Savitribai Phule Pune University and approved by AICTE and PCI. Let us know more about SCOP. We are located in a lush green and vibrant campus of Vadgaon. We offer courses B.Pharm, M.Pharm, and PhD in the streams of pharmaceutics and pharmaceutical chemistry. We are a NAC accredited institution having NRIF ranking. We have state-of-art research facilities, experienced staff, excellent resources and infrastructure. We have quite a few number of international and national MOUs and collaborations. We offer research facilities, especially in the areas of product development and pharmaceutical analysis. There are few instructions for the participants. Participants are requested to maintain the decorum of the webinar. You are requested to put in your questions in the live chat box. Attendance cum assessment link will be posted under the description section of the YouTube, and remember, link will be active till 3 p.m. only today. Attendance of both the sessions today and tomorrow is compulsory. Link for tomorrow's session will be posted on the Telegram group. All participants do subscribe our YouTube channel. I now request our principal, Dr. K.N. Gujar sir, to give his welcome address.
Hi, hello everybody. Welcome to SCOP webinar. It is the 2 days deliberation on the theme of transforming the ideas into innovation and the startup on the platform of the drug discovery. Today we have with us Honorable Dr. Abhay Jere, who is heading the innovation cell of Ministry of Human Resource under Government of India. He is also interface for us at the statutory body that is AICT. So I welcome you, sir, on the behalf of Sihagar Institutes and all the participants and delegates. We are also having the eminent scientist as a resource person from a very giant research organizations, Dr. Venkat Palla from the giant pharma company Lupin Limited, Dr. Anuya Nisa from CSIR NCR, Dr. Nilay from SynThera Biomedicals. So we welcome you, sir, on the behalf of Siakan Institute. I also take this opportunity to welcome our active listeners and the online delegates. So, so Dr. Abhay Jere, it is really a moment of proud for all the pharmacy educationists and professionals to have you on this platform being organized from the Pune for the two reasons. First is obviously you belong to the profession of pharmacist, and secondly you have got a very strong connect with the Pune itself, and there is a another personal connect for me. We have the common alma mater, that is Pune College of Pharmacy, where I could share my expertise for over 20 years. So welcome, sir. So, the drug discovery consists of a very complex process. It is always engaging a people of diverse field on the very big canvas of the drug discovery. But even then, we were not part of AICT hackathon. In fact, hackathon, the meaning is engaging the people of diverse field which are interdisciplinary in nature. But it is because of your relentless and untiring efforts, and you have approached the highest offices of the country to make this particular platform of hackathon available to the pharmacy educationists and the professionals. So I express the gratitude on the behalf of pharmacy fraternity. It will really help the Indian pharmacy educational institutes to develop the vibrant, innovative ecosystem in their institute. It will also help to increase the industry institute interaction. As we know that our students in their academic curriculum, they learn very high technology, very advanced technology, but at the end of the day, they are not able to find a solution even for the simple problems associated with the industry. It is because of the lack of the innovative mindset. And this particular point has been considered by you, Dr. Jere, and it is your brainchild, the innovation cell. And because of that new terminologies, ideation, innovation, startup, incubation, entrepreneurship, and so on and so forth. All these terms have become very popular, and it has really polarized the new researchers and the new students who have joined the education, pharmacy education. And even in this difficult time, you have put your efforts to through various platforms, through various deliberations, through panel discussion, through leadership talk, and you try to give the vision to the students and the researchers and the young entrepreneurs. And because of this, the students could get a better understanding, and they are putting themselves on this new track of innovation. And in this particular COVID situation, the role of overall healthcare system is expanding, and particularly the role of the pharmacist is getting redefined. But as it has become evident globally that one cannot imagine a medical therapy without the drug molecule and the efficient drug delivery system. And this here lies the whole scope of the pharma research, here lies the whole scope of the drug discovery and developing the efficient drug delivery system. It is going very well in context to that well-known fact that the pharmacy, India is the pharmacy of the world. And of course, there is a shift in the R&D focus, and because of the mission in this pandemic situation, we have been trying to become ourselves Atmanirbhar, Swasth Bharat and Swachh Bharat. Focusing on this, we are trying to bring the new concept into this research and development rather than the conventional drug discovery process. I'm sure that in this 2 days webinar, uh, uh, the resource person would be able to ignite the new ideas and bring some new wisdom to our field of education and profession. And as we know that everybody is having some question in their mind that after this post-pandemic, from here to where? Question in everybody's mind, from here to where after post pandemic, and that's complex question. Probably we would be able to have some better matrix to resolve it. And with this small expression from my side, uh, I will request Dr. Jere to.
Thank you, Gujar sir, for your welcome address. I now request Professor Amelia Outsett, Madam, Department of Pharmaceutics, to give a brief preamble about this webinar. Madam.
Thank you, Dr. Sugandha. Good morning and a warm welcome to everyone. On behalf of Sinhagad College of Pharmacy, Pune, I, Dr. Amelia Outsett, welcome all the participants from all across the country for a 2-day national webinar on drug discovery, transforming India into innovation and startups. We all are aware of the nitty-gritties of the drug discovery process, right from the identification of a lead molecule to the commercialization of the drug product. But now, all of you will have a chance to participate in the Drug Discovery Grand Hackathon 2020, which has jointly been launched by CSIR, AICT, under the initiative of MHRD Ministry led by Dr. Abhay Jere on drug discovery for anti-COVID-19 lead molecules generation or repurposing and designing of new tools and algorithms for it. So this is for the first time that pharma researchers across the world can participate in a big way, the flavor of which will be shared by Dr. Abhay Jere shortly. Keeping this in view, we have organized this webinar to stimulate the young minds to think out of the box and to convert their idea to innovation. So the students and the participants will be able to learn how do you go about from the idea to innovation, how to set up a business, what are the various things that are involved in starting a business and venture. And keeping this in mind, we have got two entrepreneurs which are going to deal in detail. Coming to the details of the webinar, in short, this webinar is divided into 2 sessions, today and tomorrow. Each session will be having 2 lectures or 2 talks. Today, the webinar will be obviously, of course, started and by Dr. Abhay Jere, where he will be giving a talk on education in post-COVID world and also throw some light on Drug Discovery Hackathon 2020. Followed by this, the next session will be by a very young entrepreneur, Dr. Nilay Lakhkar, a Humboldt scholar and a founder and CEO of SynThera Biomedical Private Limited, Pune, where he will be sharing his story titled From Biomedical Research to Bio-Entrepreneurship, Perspectives from Our 5-Year Journey. While tomorrow's first session will have Dr. Venkat Palle, Senior Vice President, Discovery Research at Lupin Pharma, Pune, where he will take you through the entire drug discovery process, and his lecture will be on approaches to antiviral drug discovery. This will be followed by a talk by a young and dashing woman entrepreneur, Dr. Anuya Nisar, who will be talking on unleashing the potential of silk biomaterials in regenerative medicine. She is the principal scientist, CSR NCL Pune, and co founder of Biomed Innovations. So, starting with today's lecture, we have Dr. Abhay Jere with us. Before that, I'll just briefly introduce him to all of you. So Dr. Abhay Jere is currently the Chief Innovation Officer for Ministry of HRD, Government of India. Before joining this ministry, he was the Chief Scientist, Life Sciences and R&D Head for Persistent Systems Limited. Dr. Jere is very passionate about building vibrant innovation ecosystem, especially in higher education institutions, and is working in this area since 2012. Since then, he has organized many innovation initiatives at national and local level to identify and connect innovations and innovators with mentors and investors. He is also the brain and driving force behind annual initiative Smart India Hackathon, which has now evolved as world's biggest open innovation model, and now the Drug Discovery Hackathon 2020, where participation is expected from state government, thousands of educational institutes, students, and industries. Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi has personally applauded his incentives multiple times. Smart India Hackathon has helped kick-started the hackathon culture in India. Prime Minister also proposed the PM of Singapore to organize India-Singapore joint hackathon, which was even executed by Dr. Jere and his team. Dr. Jere is instrumental in conceptualizing the first of its kind Atal Innovation Ranking Framework ARIA for ranking all educational institutions in India on their innovation achievement. He has also been instrumental in conceptualizing various innovative methodologies like Institution Innovation Council and National Innovation and Startup Policy for faculty and students. Under ISE, there are more than 1,500 institutes, and they're all guided by Dr. Jere. He is committed to popularize need of innovation and entrepreneurship among Indians. Hence, he routinely writes for columns in English and vernacular newspapers. He has also conceptualized India First leadership, and we have listened to him during the live telecast. Recently, Dr. Jere also conceptualized training programs to convert 5,000 college faculty from across India to become innovation ambassadors. He is the main brain behind Human Atlas Initiative Manav and currently its national collaborator. He has worked in cutting edge areas such as vaccines, personalized medicine, and genomics. He is the principal investigator for multiple research grants from prestigious government funding agencies like CSIR DBT. Dr. Jere incidentally completed his PhD from National AIDS Research Institute, Nari, Pune, and was part of India's HIV vaccine team. He also worked as postdoctoral scientist at National Cancer Institute and National Institute of Health, USA, before coming to India. Hush, I have deleted many things from here, but without taking much of your time, I now request Dr. Abhay Jere to take the stage and deliver his talk. I request all the participants to please post your questions in the chat section, which will be answered by him after his session. All to you, Dr. Jere. Thank you.
Hello. Can you all hear me? Okay. So first, I would really
Yes,
like
sir.
to thank Dr. Amelia for such elaborate introduction. I would also like to thank Professor Guzar for inviting me to this webinar. I am completely aware that Sinhagad College of Pharmacy is doing some real good work. So it's a pleasure talking to all the students and faculty at Sinhagad, because I stay very close to Sinhagad. My house is not very far from Sinhagad College. I stay in Katraj. My family is in Katraj. So it's always pleasure talking to people in Pune, people in Maharashtra. And if somebody is really in your vicinity, it gives you an additional pleasure. So thank you very much for inviting. And today's talk is on drug discovery. And as Dr. Amelia rightly said, that I need to speak about Drug Discovery Hackathon 2020. As you all are aware that we have just made some preliminary announcements of Drug Discovery Hackathon. I may not able to talk much about it till the final announcements are made, but I will certainly give the background behind this initiative, what we want to achieve, and as you are a pharmacy students interested in drug discovery, I will also set the expectations so that once the announcement is made, detailed announcement is made, you will able to actually compete in this initiative and contribute very, very positively. So it happened that Dr. Vijay Raghavan, who is our principal scientific advisor to Prime Minister, so he is the biggest science boss, you can say, in this country. He had a discussion with Prime Minister, and our Honorable Prime Minister suggested that we should explore the possibility of using hackathon for doing drug discovery. And the primary reason behind this thought process was that India is not doing so great in drug discovery, but we have large number of chemists, we have large number of biologists, we have large number of computer scientists, and we have large number of pharmacists in this country. So whether we are actually extracting their energy, their creativity to best of our potential. So if we can do something like a hackathon, then whether we can create this movement of drug discovery in this country. So that was the thought process with which this entire concept got conceived. Usually when we do hackathons, I am doing hackathons like Smart India Hackathon for last 4-5 years. Actually, because of Smart India Hackathon, the hackathon culture has got started in this country. But it's more of a 36 hours hackathon, 48 hours kind of a hackathon, where teams come together, work non-stop for 36 hours, and actually develop a product which can be showcased or which can be demoed. But the drug discovery hackathon, what we are conceptualizing, is more on a lines of grand challenges. I don't know how many of you are aware about concept of grand challenges, where we ask or we pose problems and large number of teams over a period of 2 months to a few years actually compete. And there are multiple stages of competition, but they compete, and at every stage there are winners. Some products are taken to next stage, then again people compete, then the product goes to a mature stage, and so on and so forth. So it's like so that methodology is called as grand challenges. And our drug discovery hackathon is based more on grand challenges. Still, there is no culture of grand challenges in this country. And through drug discovery hackathon, we believe that we will able to establish this culture of grand challenges. Second, very, very important is that when we look at drug discovery, the primary people who are associated with drug discovery are mostly medicinal chemists or synthetic chemists and biologists. There is very low involvement of computer scientists. But now with this deep learning, machine learning approaches which are getting or which are uh, uh, getting center staged, whether we can also involve them along with our pharmacy students, along with our biologists, along with our chemists, to create an interdisciplinary approach for drug discovery. And because we have more than 80 lakh students in this country who are doing technology, and equally large number of people who are in profession, so how we can harness their creativity, or whether we can create a platform to harness their creativity. That's what we are trying to explore through this drug discovery hackathon. So it will have two tracks. Track one is very COVID focused, where we want researchers to focus on COVID related drug discovery. So will be talking about various targets, 3CL proteases, spike proteins, and so on and so forth. And we will be asking youngsters to actually screen for databases like Zinc or Drug Bank and so on and so forth. So that is going to be the track one. Track two is developing the tools which will support drug discovery. The reason is currently also when we look at drug discovery, there is huge emphasis on commercial tools like Schrodinger or Advent Infotech and so on and so forth. Schrodinger is most widely used, but it's a black box at the end of the day. So can we create some open source tools to, again, based on deep learning approaches or machine learning approaches, can we build right kind of algorithms and then use those algorithms to actually build tools? So that is what we are going to explore through track two. And track three, which we will be announcing soon, is going to be a moonshot track. Moonshot means really taking a high jump or really thinking wide. And if you have concepts or if you have done projects which are really moonshot, then we would like to take it as track three. But what is the thought process behind the success of this entire hackathon? I'll talk to large number of engineering students when I when I do hackathon. But as I am a pharmacy graduate, so I have my emotional attachment with the pharmacy field. I was always thinking also that how we can involve pharmacy people to do some great discoveries. And for that, we conceptualize this project Manav. The thought process is more or less the same as drug discovery hackathon. But in Manav, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to build a map of human body, an atlas of human body. So we are exploring that whether we can create something like Google Maps of human body. So that is very, very critical. And the thought process here was that we have more than 3 to 5 lakh students who are doing pharmacy, biotechnology, microbiology, zoology, life sciences, healthcare, and whether we can use this demographic dividend to solve a very, very efficient or a very, very complex problem. Because if you go to PubMed, I don't know how many of you use PubMed, but I think majority of you must be using PubMed. But if not, you should go. All the papers get ranked on PubMed, or you can actually search for abstracts and full text. So if you really go on PubMed, we have more than 55 lakhs to 60 lakh papers with which are associated with just human biology. And nobody actually has tried looking at this data in a very, very holistic fashion. So we are exploring that whether we can use the might of our youngsters to look at this published data, published scientific data, and extract relevant information out of these papers and try to correlate this relevant information from macro level to micro level so that we should able to create the most intricate map of human body. So currently we are working on building the entire systems. DBT, Department of Biotechnology, has funded that project. PSA, Principal Scientific Advisor to Prime Minister Dr. Vijay Raghavan, was the initial champion. When I proposed him this idea, he liked it so much that he said, let's take it on fast track. So what I wish to convey from my experience with Smart India Hackathon or my experience with Project Mana is that we Indians need to start thinking big. And that is where we are really lacking. All our professors or all our youngsters, they are not ready to take real good risks. We have to take calculated risks, but we have to think big. And the biggest problem which I see in our fraternity, especially in academics, is that we are not ready. We are afraid of thinking big. So a few days back, I was before this lockdown, I was in Kanyakumari. And I was actually addressing about 50-55 vice chancellors. And all the vice chancellors were sitting there. And we were discussing about promoting innovation, entrepreneurship. And when we started this discussion, large number of vice chancellors actually came up with pain points, complaints that we don't have this, we don't have enough infrastructure, we don't have enough money, we don't have enough people, dedicated people to look into it. The funding agencies are not fair. The proposals are taking a lot of time to get funded. But no one spoke, or no one said, or no one acknowledged that the fault is not with the system. The fault is within us, because we are not proposing really good projects or really good ideas, which we all should be proud of. So we really need to look internally, and we really need to ask ourselves that the project or the proposal which I am proposing is really a good proposal, is really worth it. And many times when I talk to these youngsters or when I spoke to these vice chancellors, I ask them, tell me what great ideas you have actually championed in your last 20 years or 30 years of career. And I can tell you, there are only 2 or 3, not more than that. In last 10 years, if we really look at our budget, which we have spent on science and research, it could be somewhere as high as 70,000, 80,000 crores in last 10 years together. And where is that money gone? Are we not generating great ideas? Or are we not taking some of those great ideas forward? There are some very serious questions which really need to be asked. And that's the reason many times when I accept these invitations from webinars and so, with the hope that I am talking to youngsters. To be very honest with you, and I will be very candid about it, is that we, with white hairs, we can give a lot of unnecessary gyan. We can share some experiences. But to be very honest with you all, is that we really have lost our ability to think out of box. That ability is with you. That ability is with our youngsters. And what we really need to do is to ensure that we create an ecosystem where such abilities or such ideas which are coming from our youngsters are nurtured, are handholded, are supported, and not shut down. If you ask a very honest question, who shuts down our ideas? It starts at home many times. If you see, if a kid asks a very different question to his parents or to his elders, they tell, don't ask idhar udhar ki baatein mat kar, focus on your studies. If you go to professor, maybe in when you are in higher secondary or when you are in doing your degree, many times professors also say that why you are doing all these things, don't waste your time, how many marks you have got, just focus on your grades, otherwise you will not get a job. So this is also a reality that within our campuses, we are chasing marks, we are chasing grades, we are chasing jobs. And when we are doing all these things, our out-of-box capabilities get killed. Our ideas get killed. And we then become afraid of trying new things. But this needs to change. Because now India is aiming for $5 trillion economy. Maybe because of this COVID, certainly there is going to be some contraction in the economy. But this is the short-term impact. In long term, we should not defocus ourselves from that goal. That is $5 trillion economy. It's a very tall order. But we should not lose our focus from that goal. And if we want to emerge as $5 trillion economy, then we have to emerge as knowledge-based society and knowledge-based economy. And for that, we need to have ideas, or we need to generate ideas which will only not be relevant to this country, but will have global impact. Healthcare, because of this COVID crisis and otherwise also, is extremely critical, because large number of people are going to spend heavily for foreseeable future to ensure that their quality of life is really great. We are going to live, maybe the millennial generation is going to live minimum from 80 years to 100 years. That's what the prediction is. So you are going to live really long. And if you are going to really live long, you want to focus. The entire generation is going to focus on health. And that's where we as pharmacists have opportunities. But the question we really need to ask is, are we seeking those opportunities? Are we capitalizing on those opportunities? For example, when it came to COVID, there was a lot of scope for developing tests, diagnostics. Have we really done it? Have we thought about it? Have we conceptualized whether this could be the way of doing diagnostics? So yesterday when I was talking to Dr. Amelia, I asked her that how many companies you are incubating within your pharmacy, within your college. And she said just one. And that is also nutraceutical. This needs to change. Because I really believe this can be changed. Because I really believe that youngsters have those capabilities. Sometimes the ecosystem around them may not be so conducive. And for that, we are taking multiple initiatives. But there is enough opportunity for all the youngsters in area of diagnostics, in area of Ayurvedic formulation development, in area of nutraceuticals, in area of biological products or biologics we call. And the ecosystem is there now. At least at the national level, the local ecosystem may not be there, but at national level, there is an ecosystem which is ready to support. So if in Pune, because you are located out of Pune, I will recommend all of you to actually have a talk with Dr. Premnath, who is heading NCL Venture Center. And NCL Venture Center is considered to be one of the best centers for bio and health related startups in this country. DBT has approved them as one of the best centers in this country. So we have some real good innovators, some real experienced people within Pune itself who have done startups and who have successfully graduated from these startups or taken those startups logically forward. And Premnath is very good example of it, and he can certainly help you and guide you on some of these aspects. So I sincerely believe that Sinhagad College should engage with some of these institutes like incubators like Venture Center. So when we are trying to do all these things, we need to see what is around us. We need to collaborate. Because as pharmacy, you may have good idea, but you don't know how to implement that idea. But Sinhagad is such a huge organization. You have computer science people there, you have medical college there, you have ENT people, ENTC people, you have mechanical people, you have production people there. The question is, are we taking the efforts of walking out of the campus, going to the other campus, and talking to the relevant people there? Because they themselves will also not able to do many things, even if they want to do it. So if your institute and their institute or your youngsters and youngsters there, if they can collaborate, then the innovation which will happen at the interface of this collaboration or because of the result of this collaboration will be something really phenomenal. And this is just not limited to Sinhagad College. In Maharashtra, there are many such groups which have multiple colleges in multiple disciplines. These colleges need to talk to each other. For example, if you have a business, if you have a product, then can you collaborate with an MBA college, some people there, to actually help you put the business plan together? Or do some market research for you? So that collaboration has to happen. The cross-talking has to happen. And I will really promote this cross-talking. And I'm going to many institutes and trying to tell the youngsters that please walk out your comfort zone and you will see the success. Another important point which I wanted to share with all of you is, as ministry also, we are doing multiple efforts for promoting innovation and entrepreneurship, not only among students, but also amongst faculties. We have got National Innovation and Startup Policy for faculty and students, because before that policy, we believed or we realized that there is no enough incentive for student or for faculty who is doing entrepreneurship. But now we have a very concrete framework which is approved by AICT, which is approved by UGC. Your university has to approve it because you are actually under the jurisdiction of your Pune University, but they have to approve it. But yes, because it is approved by UGC and AICT, it's easy for them to adopt it. And in that policy, we have given multiple suggestions and benefits to students and to faculty who are doing entrepreneurship. So I will recommend all of you to actually go through this policy document. And it is scheme agnostic. You know, it is equally applicable to pharmacy people as it's applicable to engineering people or management people. So it's, in a say, stream agnostic or a discipline agnostic. So you should certainly go and look at this policy framework, because unless and until you adopt and have right kind of approach within your institute for promoting innovation and entrepreneurship, you will not able to flourish in long run. Because at the end of the day, even if you are looking for jobs nowadays, nobody cares about whether you got 60% or 65% or 70%. What we actually care while offering you a job is, one, whether you have good problem solving skills, and second, whether your attitude is right. These are two most important and critical things while we are offering jobs to our youngsters. And majority of the companies nowadays only focus on these two approaches. And unfortunately, the problem solving skills of our youngsters are not great as compared to international standards. So recently we did a study with the University of Stanford, where we compared 5,000 of our engineers with Chinese engineers and Russian engineers. And when we looked at cognitive skills, design thinking skills, problem solving skills for these three groups, the problem solving capability of Indian students was not par with the other two groups. Theoretically, we were very good. But if you have to apply that theory to solve a problem, then we were struggling. So this is the problem of our education system also, which is more of a swallow vomit kind of an education system. But within this constraint of this education system, you will certainly able to achieve if you focus your attention on problem solving within during your this degree course, rather than just chasing grades and marks. I don't say grades and marks are not important. Yes, they are important, but they have limited importance. Nobody cares if you are a great problem solver. Then world will chase you. So these are the two very, very important things which I believe all of you should follow. More importantly, when you are looking at such aspects, ability to collaborate, as I said, is also very, very critical. What is your ability to work as a team? You are a very, very self-centric person. So if you really look at the grades or appraisals which are happening in this country or in a large number of these companies, the emphasis is also a lot on how you can work as a team. So when we looked at problem solving, when we looked at team spirit, when we looked at time management, we felt that to inculcate this entire thought process within our youngsters, we should conceptualize some initiative, and that's the reason we conceptualized this Smart India Hackathon initiative, which we did in 2016. And actually, hackathon happened in 2017, but we started working in 2016. So the thought process was that we want people to solve relevant problems, which are the problems which need to be solved. Because I say this everywhere, we have 80 lakh students in this country which are doing technology. And if you all agree, we do 6 months projects. Either you work in some company for training or some other place, or you do your own projects. So every student is doing 6 months project in his 3 or 4 years of his academic course. So the amount of energy which gets invested is somewhere between 5 to 10 lakh person years per year. But many of the problems which are solved or which are done by the students are theoretical. Large number of copy pasting happens. And the problems which really need to be solved get ignored. So we felt that Smart India Hackathon should focus on problem solving, which are relevant. So that is one part. The second part is we said that people need to apply as teams. So we said 6 members, students, out of which one has to be a girl. So how to work in a team. And third, because it's a 36 hours or 48 hours kind of a initiative, people know how to do time management, which is also very critical when you are looking at project development, deadlines, how you can create from concept to demoable. It's a quick and dirty product, but demoable product in 36 hours. Very, very critical. So that was also very important for us. Now, fortunately, because of our Prime Minister's efforts, hackathon, he championed this cause of Smart India Hackathon, and now hackathons we see happening in every town and city and even in gullies. People are doing their local hackathons. So it has kick-started hackathon culture in this country. But more than hackathon, what we really need to do is start the culture of ideation, generating great ideas. That's very, very important, because you can always create infrastructure. Currently in India, we have more than 450 incubators. 450 incubators, which are ready to handhold startups. Even Sinhagad might have one incubator. But the sad reality is also that more than 70% incubators are 70% empty, means 70% underutilized. And the primary reason for that is great pipeline of ideas. There is no pipeline of ideas. And we, as pharmacy graduates, can generate huge pipeline of ideas when it comes to healthcare sector. I will strongly recommend you to go interact with medical colleges, to go interact, as I've said this before also. Just I am trying to re-emphasize on some of these points. Engineering colleges, and come with great ideas. And I'm very, very sure that the kind of initiative Sinhagad College is taking for doing in organizing such webinars, or they are part of IICs, they are talking about innovations and entrepreneurship. So they will be certainly there to help and support some of the great ideas which you will generate. I think you have great line of speakers after me as well as tomorrow. So I hope that this webinar is really helpful for you to venture into the path of innovation and entrepreneurship. And I really wish you great luck to all the students. And I will be really very happy to see some real great startups coming out of your pharmacy college. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I can certainly take questions, because sometimes this monologue is very, very boring, not only for you, it's also boring for me.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot. That was really a great and wonderful session. Now, I would just ask a few questions from the audience, because there are a lot of questions which have come through. Are you able to listen to me, sir?
Yes, I can listen.
Okay. So this first question that from me only, that when are we approximately expecting this entire details to come out regarding the drug discovery hackathon?
So we will have we hope to announce all the details in next couple of weeks. So that's what we are aiming at. So
Okay,
we
okay,
have almost finalized our problem statements. We are
okay,
working with CDAC and other people to get the virtual tool room ready,
okay,
and we will be working with MyGov to host the basic platform. So
okay,
these things are still happening. So I hope in
okay,
next max couple of weeks that should be we should have.
okay. And just one more thing from my side. Sometimes, really, I think that don't you think they should start from the school level itself, that is out of the box thinking? Because by the time they come to the college, the mindset is so fixed and rigid. It becomes sometimes I feel it becomes difficult to change that. So, can something be done by MHRD, on the at least the 11th, 12th level?
Uh, Amelia, you have asked a very important question, and Niti Aayog has already started working on it. So Niti Aayog
Okay,
has started this Atal Tinkering Labs, and they have now
okay,
established Atal Tinkering Labs in 5,000 schools, and they
okay,
have
okay,
trained faculty or teachers in these 5,000 schools for these tinkering labs. So do it
okay.
yourself kind of a culture. So if you have any idea, if a kid has any idea,
Hmm.
he can just go to that tinkering lab and you use all the instruments which are there. And these
Hmm.
are these are very high-end instruments which the teachers are trained to handle, like
Hmm.
3D printers, laser cutters, and so on and so forth. You know,
Hmm.
some
Hmm.
these tinkering labs have really come up quite well. But
Okay,
yes,
okay.
as you rightly said,
Hmm.
5,000 is not enough. We
Hmm.
have to go far beyond that. And that was one of the reasons we started with this Innovation Ambassador program, where we are trying to actually train 5,000 faculty on concepts of innovation and entrepreneurship. Because what we realized was that even if youngsters have ideas and if they go to a professor, uh, because the professor is not, or a faculty, because the faculty is a very well-meaning faculty many times, but because they are not aware of the concepts, they simply get lost and they really don't know what to do and how to support that youngster or that kid, you know. So we are training four faculties per IIC currently, and
Okay.
till date we have trained about 2,300. We hope to have
Okay.
about 6,000 faculty
Okay.
post COVID, but we want to ensure that the students know whom they should approach if they have a good idea
Hmm.
and if they want to take
Hmm.
it forward.
Okay. Thank you, sir. This is coming from one Professor Kajol. She's asking that during the drug discovery hackathon, if the process or the drug, if it is, comes into the picture, can they patent it?
So currently patenting we are not allowing.
Okay.
It will be called as collective intellectual property. So
Okay.
the people, all the people involved in the process will owe up the intellectual property, and this drug discovery team or the organizing team will have not what we can say royalty free exclusive rights to take it forward, because what we wish to ensure is but we will give you recognitions and prizes and letters saying that this is the faculty which has suggested this idea or this molecule. But we
Okay.
are because anyway it's not going to help them in beyond an academic purpose for patenting,
Hmm.
because they cannot commercialize it, because the right for commercialization are going to be rested with
Hmm.
the drug discovery hackathon team, and which has committed that they will commercialize it without making any financial profits on it, because this entire initiative is for mankind, humankind, and we want to ensure that if a drug gets developed in this entire process, it is available at a very, very lowest cost. So we wish to ensure that we are also not going to make any money out of any of the process. So we are not going to allow anyone to make any money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So this one more is from Indranil Dhavde. He's asking that the track 1, 2, 3 are the rounds which would be like taken up by the, and how does it like end into the next round?
Okay. So let me. I don't know whether he.
So you will
asked the right
have
question, but
qualifying. So
I
qualifying.
could understand what he was trying to ask. Okay. So there are three tracks. One is track
So-
1, which is very COVID focused. Track 2, which is more algorithm model building focused, tool building focused. And track 3 is more of a moonshot kind of an ideas. So in phase 1, all the 3 tracks will be operational. And selected ideas from track from all these 3 tracks will move to phase 2 for improvisation. Okay, so track 1 is more of a screening of great ideas. Phase 2 is more of maturing or consolidating on those great ideas. And and phase 3 will be further finishing on these great ideas. So there will be 3 tracks and there will be 3 phases. And each phase will have all these 3 tracks.
Okay. So, but he's concerned that the third track or second track looks more computer oriented rather than pharmacy oriented, like
that
or
is
life sciences oriented.
Absolutely wrong notion. That is again a wrong notion. Computer scientist cannot do anything if he doesn't have some. For example, I will tell you. If I have to build a model to understand cardiotoxicity, okay, which compound or which group within a compound is resulting in cardiotoxicity. What are the descriptors which are resulting in cardiotoxicity? Whether a computer science guy will able to figure it out by himself? No. So you require a chemist, a medicinal chemist, or a pharmacist to work with him, saying that these are the descriptors which are responsible for cardiotoxicity. Now, using deep learning approaches or using graph theory or some of the other approaches or neural networks, can we build a model on top of it? Okay. So what I was trying to say in my entire webinar was that please collaborate. Please collaborate. If you're not ready to collaborate, you will not achieve anything. And if that message is lost after saying so many times, then it's really very difficult for me to, in which language I should tell. I don't know.
Okay. Mr. Ashutosh Kumar is asking which programming languages would be required for, the drug discovery process and how artificial intelligence would, play a role there.
Artificial intelligence process or artificial intelligence DNA or a deep neural network has a huge role to play. So pattern recognitions. How you build pattern recognitions? Currently, we are looking at docking. Okay, the conventional way is docking. You do docking. But now, if you know a ligand, can you do a neural network analysis with and actually ensure that you can suggest some of the probable ligands which may have similar properties? So yes, artificial intelligence is very, very important. Neural network is very, and we don't care whether you use Python or whether you use C++, we don't care. Languages, we don't bother,
Okay, thank you. So this is from Dr. Sandeep Pathare. He's asking that how COVID-19 is sparking a new wave of health innovation and what is the initiative of MHRD to fight coronavirus pandemic?
So this is one of the big initiatives of MHRD to fight coronavirus pandemic. But before that, we did two more initiatives. I don't know whether you participated in those initiatives. One, immediately, Ministry of Human Resource Development is the only ministry which immediately started working with youngsters as soon as we went into lockdown. So we went into lockdown, I think, on 22nd of March, and on 25th of March, 23rd of March, we actually announced our first initiative, which was called as Ideathon. It was a quick hackathon which we did on 27th and 28th of March. About 5,000 teams from almost each and every state in India participated. Then we declared results on about 31st of March. We declared results, and on 5th of April, we again launched another initiative called as Samadhan to look at innovations from startups which were relevant in this COVID crisis. So we have identified about 10 projects from Ideathon as well as from Samadhan, which we will be now funding from AICT. And some of these are really great projects, and many of them are student-based projects. So we have done that.
Okay.
And now, meanwhile, we are doing a lot of online trainings. I think we did, you must have, some of you might have done some of the online training related to innovation and entrepreneurship. We had about some like 9 lakh views for some of the trainings. About 4 lakh participants have actually generated certificates for those trainings. And now we are going to launch this drug discovery hackathon.
Okay. So one more coming from Kishore Sagre that, you know, that in our country, we rely mainly on generic drug development. So how can there be an impact on, you know, the innovative drug discovery process, because that is not, we are much familiar with being dependent mainly on generic drug development.
So generic drug development, yes, certainly that. But these two, that way, are very separate things and need not be very orthogonal. You know, need not hamper each other. So if you are aware of how a drug discovery process is, how a drug discovery actually happens, then I think it's easy for you to identify hits and then leads, and for identifying hits, what you should do. So you need to actually look into the processes. If you are a pharmacy person and if you don't know how a drug discovery process happens, then you really need to look inwards.
I think we would take last two questions. One is again from Kajol. How can we collaborate between the computer scientists for neural networking to map up the drugs?
It's again a very good question. So what you should certainly do, once these problem statements are announced, you go ahead, pick the problem statement which is of your interest. Okay. Then as I said, go and talk to people who are interested in deep learning or neural network analysis or basic machine learning analysis, and try to discuss with them that whether they feel that whether that problem can be solved using those approaches. And if yes, then you formally collaborate and you form a team, because we are going to ask for a collaborative team. That we have taken a decision. Then as a team, you start working together on that project, on solving that particular problem statement which we will be giving you. And that problem statement will be very, very discrete. So you will able to work on it. Don't worry. We have conceptualized that problem statement. We have worded that problem statement in such a way that people should able to collaborate and people should able to come up with meaningful results which we can analyze.
Okay. So have you taken problems even from pharma and biotech industries? Of
No,
a
we don't take.
country
We
like...
have conceptualized our own problem statements.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay. So I think that's all from all the questions, whatever I have. So thank you, Dr. Jere, for a very wonderful session as well as patiently answering all the questions. So we have come to the end of the first session. I thank you
I will
once
just
again
like
for
to add
taking
one
time
small
from
thing.
your...
I will just like
Yeah,
to
yeah,
add
sure.
one thing before we conclude. Is that first, if you are listening to me, please follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My Twitter handle is Abhay Jere. My Instagram handle is Jere Abhay. So please follow me on that, because the, you are, we need to build community which is dedicated towards innovation and entrepreneurship. So it will help you to communicate with me, and it will also help me with communicating with you all. So that is one thing. Second thing is that please join our leadership talks in large number. The reason for those leadership talks is to push youngsters to think out of box, is to tell them that yes, things are possible. So please check other leadership talks also, which I have done. I've done some amazing stories which are out there. So please read them. And finally, before I conclude, I know at some point I was harsh. I was a bit nasty also. But I really want to ensure that the reason I was nasty or harsh is that we really need to tell that message that let's not just chase grades or marks. Let's really think differently. Because if we will not think differently, we as a country will never able to achieve what we are aspiring to achieve. And we all share our Honorable Prime Minister's dream of seeing Bharat as Jagat Guru in due course of time. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. We come to the end of the first session for today. Now I request my colleague, Dr. Sugandha Mulgun Madam, to take over and start with the next session with Dr. Nilay Lakhkar. Thank you.
Yeah. I think Dr. Nilay has joined already.
Yes, I
Hello.
have.
Good morning.
Can you hear
Yeah.
me?
Good morning. Yeah. Good morning, sir.
So,
Good morning.
slightly
Good
increase
morning.
the volume. So volume is slightly less.
Just a second. It takes a while. Okay. Okay. So maybe you can hear me better now.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
better. Yeah, better.
You
Before we
can hear
start
me
our
better.
second session, Before we start our second session today, let me introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Nilay Lakhkar. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce to you all our second speaker, Dr. Nilay Lakhkar. Dr. Nilay is founder and CEO of SynThera Biomedical Private Limited, Pune. The company focuses on research and development, manufacturing, and commercialization of advanced materials for healthcare applications. Dr. Nilay has completed his bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from University of Mumbai. He later had his post-graduation in MSc in Biomaterials and Tissue Engineering from the prestigious University College London, UK. He obtained his PhD in Biomaterials and Tissue Engineering from UCL, London. During his tenure at University College London, he has authored and co-authored 13 peer-reviewed publications. He was awarded with UCL Graduate and Overseas Scholarship, which was awarded to only 20 students out of 500 plus applications. Dr. Nilay has worked as senior editor for quality and training section at Cactus Communications Private Limited. There, he was responsible for editing and formatting of English documents and conducting training workshops on editing skills. Sir has also worked as scientific employee in Germany, and there he was awarded the Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship for Postdoctoral Research. The most important thing is that Dr. Nilay has successfully raised few crores of grants and equity fundings from government bodies and angel investors during last 5 years. He has one patent and 10 trademarks to his credit. Sir will be giving a talk on from biomedical research to bioentrepreneurship perspective from our 5 years journey. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and I'm Nilay. I am so it's a real pleasure for me to be able to deliver this deliver this talk to you um, at the behest of Dr. Amelia, who approached me through an alumnus of Simagad College, Mr. Hero Vaswani. Um, when Dr. Amelia approached me and said, why don't you, give a talk about your entrepreneurship journey, and what have been what have been the high points, what have been the low points, how have you learned as you go along. I think I jumped at the opportunity because I'm pretty sure there are several budding bio entrepreneurs that are listening, that are watching this right now, and I really want to reach out to all of you and to tell you a little bit about, give you our perspectives, and hopefully give you some sense of what you can expect as you go forward. um of course, the message is
Nilay, sir.
direct.
A little bit louder, sir.
Sure. So
Okay,
the
thank you.
message is also, my message is also, of course, directed towards students who will be, entering the job markets uh, at some point in the, at some point uh, this year, and in what is, undoubtedly a very, very challenging at time, but at the same time, one that brings plenty of opportunities to really, really, to really grow as organizations and as people. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Let me I've prepared, I prepared some slides. So I'll go ahead and share the screen now. um just a second. uh right. So hopefully the screen is visible. Doctor, can you confirm that you can see the
Yeah,
screen?
it's loading. It's visible now, sir. It's visible, sir.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, the title of our talk is From Biomedical Research to Bio Entrepreneurship, Perspectives from Our 5 Year Journey. So, you know, um, Dr. Sugandha gave a bit of background about what I've done before I came back to India from Germany in 2014, launched SynThera in early 2015. Um, I think so. And when Dr. Amelia, gave me the brief for the talk, I think the idea was that you are a highly qualified person. You're working on an idea. You worked on an idea. There's a lot of science involved, especially since you're a biomaterials person. There's a lot that is applicable on the scientific side, but at the same time, the entrepreneurial side of what you've done so far is of is especially important, especially relevant for this talk, and I want you to focus there. So I think that's what allowed me to tailor the talk a little bit more on the entrepreneurship side. So if we if we go into what we're going to talk about, I would, I'll first start off by introducing who we are, what we do. I'll talk a little bit about our journey so far, what the original idea and plan was, what was the science that we came with, which we wanted to convert into technology, which we wanted to convert into products, um, where we wanted to build IP, what we thought as scientists when we started on this journey, and then of course what actually happened. Where reality strikes, you find out that you know your life as an entrepreneur is really, I mean, it may be about the science, but it is about so much more that you know very little about. um, and we sort of we sort of learned as we went along. We learned learned some lessons the hard way, and it uh, we took our knocks. But that's what entrepreneurship is. You take your knocks, you get struck down, you stand up, you dust yourself off, you start walking again. And that's what we've done. So we had several aspects where reality struck us. And then there'll be three aspects that I'll talk about a little more. There's getting funded, building the right team, navigating the regulatory landscape, all of which quite specific um, have quite specific requirements for the bio entrepreneur. I will of course um, finish off by addressing the big question that surrounds all of us today, which is to survive this current situation. And what's the way forward? What's the way forward for us at SynThera, and what's the way forward for you as bio entrepreneurs, and as students who will be getting into the workforce today. So, moving on, just a little idea of who we are. So, I'm the founder and CEO, very ably assisted in our operations by Dr. Amol Chaudhary, who's our Chief Technology Officer, our CTO. Um, Myself and Amol, we both bring advanced degrees from top medical schools in Europe. I'm from UCL. Dr. Amol's comes from KU Leuven. We both studied in dental schools over there, even though we're not dentists. Um, then we're complemented quite ably by Dipti. Dipti is our general manager. She acts as a very important counterbalance to our technical skills by bringing a lot to the table as a lawyer, as a company secretary, as someone with lot of skill when it comes to the commercial side of running a business. Um, Last but not least, Miss Niketa Chauhan. She's our senior associate, who is basically Doctor. She's like Dr. Amol's right hand person for implementing almost all our initiatives, not only on the R&D side, but also increasingly on the operations. So together um, we have a good mix of people who with experience in biomedical
Uh,
R&D, product
Excuse me,
development,
Nilay, sir.
corporate affairs. There's an important message here in terms of uh,
Sir.
hello.
Sir, again, the request bit louder and also increase the audio of your laptop also.
Just a second. I'll
Yes.
just do that straight away. Uh, so am I a little more? Is it a little better now?
Yeah, it's now better. Continue, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. It's perfect now.
Is it a bit better now? Okay.
Yes, sir. It is
Okay.
better. You can go ahead. Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. So I'll go on from here. Um, that's so yes, as I was saying, there's an important message here in terms of having the right balance in the team between people from diverse backgrounds, and I'll come to this message as we go along with the presentation. Uh, So, in terms of what we do, we are essentially an advanced materials company for the healthcare sector, and our vision, our mission is guided by the three words you see in front of you, that is regenerate, repair, revitalize. So we basically work on materials that aid in the repair, and the regeneration and revitalization of human tissue. Okay, so what that means is that these are the materials we work on essentially play a role in basically stimulating the tissue to actually undergo this entire repair process in areas where there has been tissue loss. So there's a whole, we have a pipeline of products. The ones that you see in front of you, there's Synos, there's Porosin. These are basically, these are our the first products that we worked on. They're known as synthetic bone graft substitutes. I'll talk a little bit about what they are, how they work, on the next slide. But these are mainly our products in the bone repair space. We do work on products in the repair of other tissue types as well. So I think what are when we basically, when we were asked about, what when we were asked by Dr. Amelia, when I was asked, okay, talk about your journey um, so far, and I wanted to distill this down into into one or two very distinct images of, you know how it's all been. I think this is the best that I could come up with, and it describes things quite well. So the meaning is, the images speak for themselves. What people think about how we've achieved. You really look at where we were and where we are right now, and you think, oh, this has been a, quite a linear path to, some level of success. I wouldn't call us successful. I would say that, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be I would be more humble in saying that, we've made progress. Okay, so as we've made progress, you might think it's linear, but our 5 years with all the roller coaster ride shows that, it's been anything but linear. It's been messy. And I think this is one thing that bio entrepreneurs will, and all entrepreneurs for that matter, but especially bio entrepreneurs will need to understand, is that the route up is messy. It's like when you're on Mount, it's like when you're at base camp in front of at Mount Everest, and you look at the summit on top, and you think all you need to do is just, climb straight up, and you'll be at the summit in, whatever hours or days time. It's not quite like that. Anyone who's done trekking, anyone who's done mountain climbing will tell you there's no such thing as a straight way to the top. There are twists, there are turns, there are ravines, there are, there are all kinds of places where you have to jump and take risks. Sometimes you may fall, you have to get up, you have to go on. This is what you end up having to do on a regular basis as a bio entrepreneur. So I would say, yeah, that would be one take home message. Be ready for a bit of a roller coaster ride when you are a bio entrepreneur. So, I think I'd start off with the original idea. And again, if I had to distill it down to an image, this is what it would look like. Okay. So we work, I told you we work on, we work on Synost and Porosin. Now, these are basically synthetic bone graft substitutes. Bone graft substitutes are used in dental and orthopedic surgeries in order to repair or to in order to repair and regenerate bone tissue in areas where there has been bone loss. It could be due to injuries, it could be due to disease. The idea there is that you want to have a material that actually stimulates the surrounding tissue to undergo the process of healing, of repair, regeneration, and then, side by side, for the material itself to resorb as we go down the whole healing process, so that at some point down the line, in a few say it can be a few weeks, it could be a few months. You want the material to entirely disappear once implanted in the defect site, and then you want it to be replaced by a healthy human bone. Okay, so the idea with bioactive glasses, which is our material of interest, and which is the material on which porosin and synast are based. The idea behind that is that it is a synthetic material that essentially stimulates bone repair through the release of ions that have physiologically important roles to play in bone growth and in bone growth. So, bioactive glasses, when implanted in vivo, will release phosphorus, they'll release calcium ions, sodium, they may release other ions depending on the chemistry, and all these ions will play a role in stimulating bone repair at the implantation site. Now, the idea behind using bone grafts is that behind sort of improving on bone graft technologies is that you want to reach the stage of biomimesis. Biomimesis in this case being that you want materials that mimic the behavior of the tissue in which the material is implanted as closely as possible. So for us, when we started working on porosin, for example, the idea was, okay, you have materials, bioactive glass materials that are being used as bone grafts, but they're all non-porous. Okay, and bone as an organ is quite porous. Depending on the type of bone, whether it's cortical, whether it is whether it is the dense bone, whether it is spongy bone, it has a certain level of porosity. We knew that the material, whatever material we created, would need to combine the properties of the actual composition with morphology that would sort of incorporate a level of porosity quite similar to what bone quite similar to the porosity of bone. So essentially that was it, converting a non-porous material into a 60% porous material. That was the idea. Sounds deceptively simple, but um, a lot of work needed to go into actually understanding not only the biological side of the problem, but also the material side of the problem. We started off from the material side because we're more material scientists, but with a strong biology background. So when we thought about, okay, what would we do that would be novel here? So the novelty here would be to work on the composition of the material, okay, and to work on the processing methodology required in order to impart porosity to a material that is otherwise non-porous. So as scientists, we formulated the problem in these words. We said, we when we talk to when we talk to grant funding agencies, when we talk to DBT BIRAC um, for our first fund, and this is what we mentioned. We said bioactive glass plus phosphate composition plus porosity process gives us freedom to operate. It gives us IP white space. Basically, it gives us the opportunity to develop technologies that are patentable. Okay, and this is a message that BIRAC wanted to hear. We got funded based on this. Okay, so and the idea here is that we were all doing this under the mentorship of Entrepreneurship Development Center. Dr. Jere mentioned Dr. Premnath pointedly during his talk. I would absolutely agree with what he said. We are we are an incubatee company at Entrepreneurship Development Center, and as for those of you who are looking to become bio entrepreneurs, I would strongly encourage you to listen to what Dr. Jere said, which is to go to Entrepreneurship Development Center, talk to Dr. Premnath, talk to his team, talk to the incubating companies, understand exactly what is involved. Okay, and what the opportunities are. So then that's the thing. We started off with this from there. Okay, and so this was the plan. studies, doing more in vitro cell culture work, fabricating prototypes, carrying out in vivo studies, doing a lot of optimization to develop something that would be proof of concept. And then we very conveniently put a box for stage 2, talking about clinical trials and CDSCO approval, CE marking, as something that would be done post BIG. So essentially what we did at the time is 90% of the entire journey we've conveniently put into a box saying that this is what we would do afterwards. I think that was a bit of a, that was a bit of a mistake for us to really sort of not focus enough on that 90% as quickly as we a lot earlier. I can tell you that with hindsight, this is something that we should have probably been a little more aware of as scientists. So I mean, a little more aware as entrepreneurs. And we might have probably made done a bit better. But that's all part of the journey. So this was the plan, and we got funded for this via BIG. We launched SynThera as we went along this as we went along this process um, of applying for government funding. And as we launched SynThera and we actually got down to the job of being entrepreneurs, I think that's when reality really struck. Okay, that's when all the different questions that come in front of you really struck. And you can see the baby right there. We were just like that. We really didn't have answers at that point. When you talk about all these things, funding, you've got your first, you've got your first grant. That's, like I said, it's for only 10% of the work. You're going to need a lot more money coming in via grants, via equity, via debt, any kind of source that you can find. You're going to need funding. How are you going to get that? What are you going to have to show? How are you going to prove that you can that you're capable of executing whatever it is that you say you're going to do when you actually pitch for money? Then the team. What kind of team do you want to build? Who do you want to center it around? What kind of, I mean, how are you, I mean, teams need to be balanced. How are you going to build that balance? Because remember, you can't do it on your own. You need a strong team to be able to sort of take things ahead. Then regulation. There's, I mean, I'm imagining that, as pharmacy students, you would understand that we're amongst that, that the life sciences are amongst the most regulated fields in the world. Okay, but what are those regulations? We as material scientists with a biological background didn't know that. So we had to learn that from scratch. Partners, again, you can't do everything on yourself by yourself. There'll be certain things that you can do, make samples, do some testing up to the in vitro stage. What when you have to do animal trials? What when you have to do clinical trials? What when you have to do um, when you have to do actual, manufacturing at scale and marketing and so on? You need partners there. So who would they be? The market. I could devote a whole talk on this. What is your market like? Who are your customers? What are they looking for when they want a product like this, like a bone graft substitute, for example? What would make them want to buy your product and switch from using their other products, which are typically coming from MNCs with lots of clinical data and vast marketing budgets? What would make them switch from those companies to your company? So these were the questions. Again, accounting and compliances. We're scientists. We work on technology. We think about the science of it, science of the entire thing. But there's a whole host of things that need to be done while you're work along with the science. And it's called accounting. It's called basic bookkeeping. It's called statutory compliances. Dealing with a lot of authorities, taxation, GST, etc., etc. We didn't know anything about it. It's and again, you needed to bring that level of that sort of understanding also into your team. Okay, And then of course force majeure. This is not, force majeure, in simple layman terms, is acts of God, and we didn't it's not something that I would have brought up in a talk like this about 3 months ago, but it's something that we definitely need to be talking about right now. Okay. So um this is how reality struck. And as so now, as I go along, I won't be able to talk about all these different thought balloons. I thought, let's focus on three of them. Let's focus on funding, let's focus on team, let's focus on regulation. Let's see how, what are the specific aspects here for bio entrepreneurs. And finally, let us address force majeure and what that means for us as bio entrepreneurs, and how we need to plan the way ahead. Okay. So moving along, um the first thing is getting funded and the importance of packaging. And I'll come out with my take home message straight away. Tailor your message to your audience. So a little some statistics. The second so there was a there was a analysis carried out some time back about the top reasons for startup failure. I don't know if it was in the US or whether it was worldwide, but they analyzed the reasons why startups failed. And what came out is that the second largest reason for startup failure is that the company ran out of cash. The fourth largest reason for startup failure is that there was no interest from investors or funding agencies. Okay. As bio entrepreneurs, the two go hand in hand. The first 4 or 5 years of your journey, if you're working on a brand new idea, are really going to be about balancing your cash flow through grants and through equity. So basically, getting that investor interest, getting that grant funding interest as you go along, maybe even getting interest from banks to give you loans, all of that is really is absolutely important. I cannot emphasize again and again. Cash flow is oxygen for the entrepreneur. It is just as important, just as vital for bio entrepreneurs, where you may not be making sales from day one, and it may take 5 years from idea all the way to product. So considering all of that, the importance of packaging is something that becomes very important. Now on the you know on to provide you with information, when you want to, if you have an idea and you want to convert it into a if you want to go ahead from it and show proof of concept and develop technology, the first few things, as Dr. Jere said, you have the tinkering labs, you have entrepreneurship development center, where you bring your ideas and they mentor you and they help you to get that first pot of money. There's a lot of good opportunities there now, which didn't exist when I first started. um, so in our case, the first major pot of money that we went for was the biotech ignition grant via BIRAC DBT. They have, and since we got that, and then in subsequent years we've gotten their follow-on grants via other programs such as SIBRI and BIPP and so on. These will be your first avenues for getting funded. Okay. Now, uh, let me tell you a little bit about what kind of challenges we faced there. When we applied for BIG for the first time, okay, I think we looked at the technology, and I think it was the exuberance of youth for us. I think it was, wow, this technology that we're developing is fantastic technology. We're going to make a bone graft that no one's ever thought of. It'll be used. It can be used by dentists. It can be used by orthopedic surgeons, by implantologists, by spinal surgeons, all kinds of surgical applications, etc., etc. We put all that into our application, and we got rejected. And the message that came across was that your application wasn't focused enough. Okay. And that came as a bit of that at the time came of a bit of a surprise. But then again, we sat down with Dr. Premnath, and we analyzed, and we said, okay, you've got a good technology, but you haven't you but when you're talking about the pitch, you need to package it the right way. Okay. So what we understood is that you would need to focus. You need to focus on bringing that all that conceptual framework down to one product for say one customer. Okay, start off with something like that and then build from there. Okay, so yeah, I mean we refocused, we sort of talked, okay, why let's not talk about bone graft substitutes, let's talk about dental alloplasts. Dental alloplasts are essentially bone grafts used by dentists, synthetic bone grafts used by dentists. So let's focus there. And also let's talk about the national relevance, the social relevance. Let's talk about why this is very important for pretty much everyone who needs a bone graft, and that is a very large population. People, you for old people, for the aged, for those who suffer injuries, road accident victims, for those who are undergoing cancer rehabilitation. Those messages needed to come out, and we hadn't brought them out before. So that's what we did. We packaged it a little differently, and then we got funded. Okay, the thing was that different agencies, whether it is government agencies, and then as you go along, you'll be looking at investors, as you go along further, you will look at banks for debt. All of them are going to want different things from you when you're pitching your idea. Grants are about mainly about IP, and they're about social and national relevance. Are you solving a problem that is nationally relevant, and are you going to use it to build IP? Okay, that's important from a grant perspective. With equity, you're looking at an investor who's basically looking at what your idea is and who you are, and he's looking, okay, if I put an X, am I at what point am I going to get back 10x or 10 times the amount of money that I put in? Okay, so there's a lot of emphasis on the size of the market, the size of the what the problem is, whether the solution that you're providing is something that's never been thought of before. Okay, and whether you can build a solution that essentially is foolproof to the extent that you will have no competition. Okay, that's the ideal point. That's the ideal, that's the goal. Okay, that's what investors want to see. As you go ahead, you'll have debt. You will be approaching banks for say loans, and there the process is again very structured. They want their money back, they give you money, they want it back with interest. Your balance sheet, your P&L sheet, all of this, basically your financial health, and at that point of time is what decides it. Okay, is what decides whether they give you money or not. So it's the importance of packaging your message is crucial here. And the role of and I would highlight again the role of mentorship. Having the right people to guide you through this process is extremely important. It's what has enabled us to get this sort of funding. Okay, and this is an ongoing process, so we continue to talk to mentors, we continue to talk to advisors in order to raise more money. So it's an ongoing process. Okay, so that's my first take home message. Tailor your message to the audience when you want to get funding. All right, so the second thing, build the right build the right team. Getting the right talent is extremely important, and the idea is to don't just build not just build a team, not just set up a team, but build a culture. Okay, so bio entrepreneurs typically will start off with highly qualified people having a bio R&D inclination. Okay, and that's logical, right? You're basically you're fresh out of school, or you may have you may have come out of a job where you had a lot of technical work, where you were mainly hired for your technical expertise, and you have an idea that you want to convert into where you want to go down the entrepreneurial route and develop products or offer services and so on. So you start off that way, but as you go along, you understand this, and we understood this quite quickly, is that success depends on getting people from diverse backgrounds. Okay, and what that means is again balancing the technical with the non-technical. And also about the people that you surround yourself with, as advisors, as mentors, as possibly as consultants. all of these people need to have the sorts of skills that bring balance between the technical and the non-technical. Okay, that's what Dipti brings, for example, to our team here. That's what, our advisors from entrepreneurship develop from venture center, what they bring. Because we have advisors who bring in a lot of market experience, a lot of startup funding experience, a lot of clinical trial experience. you know all of these are people with, will bring skills that you may not as the entrepreneur have, but then that's the idea. You want to build diversity into your entire team, and you want these diverse people to be working with a single purpose, which is to basically uh, live up to the vision and the mission of the company. Okay, so when I talk about the vision and mission of the company, the idea that comes across here is that it's not just about the skills of these people, but the values. Okay, it is very important to build, to define your culture and values driving the organization right from the start. And again, very very important. And we've learned this the hard way as well. Okay, right in my our first year of entrepreneurship, we had, Amol um, was my first team member. We had a second team member, again, who was a young guy, fresh out of college, showed quite a bit of enthusiasm, and we thought, yeah, I mean, this guy is good. We should hire him. Okay, so we did. And what came across quite immediately was that, okay, the guy might have the right skills, but does he fit in with the culture of the company? Okay, for us, working hard, working smart, um, being honest, being uh, being diligent, all of these are very key values. Now, what we found, I mean, so, and then that's how we try to visualize every person who's part of our circle. Do they live up to these values? Okay, we found out that this young employee was good at skills, but unfortunately not building up to those values. Ultimately, 3 months down the line, we had to let him go. So it was because of an error, because of something that he had done. But I mean, ultimately that was a major reason, not really gelling with the values of the team. So again, very very important. Get the people with diverse skills, but make sure they have the right values that align with your vision. Okay, this is a very important message to bio entrepreneurs. It's not just about the scientists, it's also about all the different people who bring in all the different who bring in their expertise and their wisdom in all the areas of entrepreneurship, not just technology. Okay, so the third thing, navigating regulatory pathways. um, and by the way, a bit of statistics. I think I mentioned the second largest and the fourth largest reason for startup failure are cash related. The third largest reason for startup failure is not having the right team. Okay, so there's statistics behind it. Now, navigating regulatory pathways. I mentioned earlier that life sciences is amongst the most regulated industries in the world. Uh, you would probably know that by now through your training. It is amongst the top 10 most regulated industries, as per a survey that was carried out, together with banking and oil and gas and transportation and so on. So what that means is that you need to know who your regulator is. I mean, you need to know your regulations, you need to stay on top of the rules, and you need to be engaging with regulators on a frequent basis. Okay, for us, in for the Indian context, um you know all pharmacy graduates would know the Drugs and Cosmetics Act is like our Bible, our Gita, our Quran, any religious book. And for us, for SynThera, the Indian medical device rules are like a subsection of this great book. Okay, and again, this is not something that we were quite aware of when we started off. And um, therefore, we realized as we went along that developing technology for IP is very different from developing biotech products for the market, because there is an organization that is basically uh, carrying out a dual role. They're basically making sure to ask the right questions to you about whether your product is safe and whether it does, what it's supposed to do, its intended use. They're asking that question, and they're safeguarding the public from you un- until you answer those questions in the right way. That's what regulators do, right? They regulate. The idea there is that, the rules can change as things mature. Okay, so certain, as our understanding matures about, certain drugs, for example, there have been drugs that were available quite easily maybe a couple of decades ago, but which have now been discontinued because clinical data has shown that their efficacy comes with side effects that, and the risks of those side effects far outweigh the benefits that come through from the drug. So, drugs have been phased out. Medical devices have gone the same way, and the idea is that clinical data has played a major role. The second thing is, of course, market dynamics. The Indian market, I can tell you, till about, I would say till about 2016, 17, medical devices and drugs were pretty much treated under the same umbrella, under the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, which was, the medical device community never understood it because medical devices and drugs are two very, very different streams, with two very, very different areas and have very different requirements. So that changed. Uh, um, the regulatory agency, the CDSCO, came out with the Indian medical device rules, which, sort of made it very clear what regulatory mechanisms would be for medical device products. Okay, and and that basically, that simplified things for us, and at the same time added its own level of complexity because of the lack of clarity regarding the regulatory side of our products. What kind of factory we need to have, what kind of environment we need to have in that factory, what kind of data we need to show, etc., etc. There was a lack of clarity and therefore a bit of subjectivity. Okay, where, you talk to the regulator and you come to a consensus. Here now the rules were set in stone, and if those rules are in your favor, that's great, and if they're not and you have to change your business plan as a result, then that's that. And that's exactly what we actually had to do once medical device rules came in. We thought previously that we would set up our own factory for making bone grafts. We had to shift after these rules, after understanding what we would have to do. We decided that, look, we'd have to, work with partners, for contract manufacturing of our products. So it's very important to be able to navigate these regulations as you go along. As bio entrepreneurs, staying on top of necessary regulations is absolutely key. Okay, and uh, I mean, it's the sort of thing where, again, as you go along, it will, I mean, regulations will come up and they will change, and being staying on top of them, and again having the right advisors and the right mentors to basically help you navigate this are, again, are extremely important. They've I mean, having the right mentors has made a massive difference to us, as a company, for when it comes to the regulatory side. Okay, so finally, I think we come to the black elephant in the room. By a scientist at Cambridge as being a black elephant. So it's a cross between a white swan and, sorry, a black swan. So we know a black swan event is one that is completely unanticipated and which causes major havoc and disruption. It's a cross between a black swan and the elephant in the room, which is essentially a problem that you know exists but you refuse to address or talk about. COVID is something like that. It is something that has come up and it has created a profound change in our personal and professional lives, but it has come due to factors that we knew existed and we had no and we decided to do nothing about. We talk about environmental degradation, when we talk about, you know the loss of biodiversity, etc., etc. I won't get into that. What I will get into is the fact that all of this has essentially had a profound change on has profoundly changed the way we work and we live. It has changed us personally and it has changed us professionally. Okay. And it's happened in a very short span of time. All right. And as a company, we've it is already, it had an immediate impact. Okay. We were on our way to launching our first products over the next couple of months. We were on our way to starting our clinical trials in May. Um, we were on our way to starting a good level of marketing with our key customers, dental professionals, for example. We were on our way to doing all of that. And essentially, everything has to be put on hold and everything is going to be delayed. And when it happened, it was, again, the first thing that hits you is why is this, it is frustrating. Why should this be happening? All right. And I think, this is the sort of problem that we're all facing in our respective lives at this point in time, isn't it? Because certain things, because change is, it's not it change can be brutal. All right. And it can be disruptive. It can cause us to question everything. So the thing there is that when I thought, okay, what can I provide as a take home message? Now there's no take home message here because this is an evolving situation, right? I haven't found a solution to surviving COVID as an organization, as at SynThera. But what I can provide is a solution to all right. The only thing that we can really do is really look at what we can do going forward. Okay. I think it's worth realizing and it's worth acknowledging that this is our trial by fire. ये हमारी अग्नि परीक्षा है, ही आपली अग्नि परीक्षा आहे. I'd say it in any other language I could. This is our trial by fire. We are entering a very unknown, um, we're entering an unknown environment where we don't really have an understanding for what is going to happen. The only thing you can do is follow what Randy Pausch said. Randy Pausch, you can check him out on YouTube. He gave an extremely famous talk called "The Last Lecture." I would encourage you to check that out. And what he said is, it's not about the cards you're dealt, but how you play the hand. Essentially, what it means is, whatever the situation, how do you make the best of it? How do you make the best of it? And for us, what that meant was, I think we needed to conserve value first as a company. Okay, which means basically we needed to survive. Okay, we need to do that, but at the same time we need to look at ways in which we can augment value. Okay, can we use this as a time to look at our technology portfolio in a different way? Can we look at this as an opportunity for to look at our marketing strategy in a different way? Can we look at this to look at new partners, to look at new ways of doing things? And I think the answer has been yes all the way. Okay, so we've, for example, started working on bioactive glasses that can be used as disinfectants. It's an area that's not been explored, and it's an area that where we see that there might be potential. So we've started work there. We've continued with marketing. We've continued talking to dentists. We've continued talking to people in the industry, and we've continued to understand, okay, how the market dynamics going to change and what that means for us as a entrepreneur, as a startup. Okay, this, I mean, it's the sort of thing where when there's a cliche at this time, biotech has fake level, but it exists for a reason, because there has been such I'm sure that it will improve. And if you take the time to improve yourselves as people, and as potential entrepreneurs, and to look outside the box and think things differently and see opportunities where you would not have seen them even 3 months ago, I think you will be well on the road to success as an entrepreneur, as a bio entrepreneur. And if you do this, follow the same approach as someone getting into the job market, the same will go for you. Having the right skills, having the right approach as you come out of a situation like this is what will define your career and your life as an entrepreneur. So that brings me to the end. Thank you very much. We're on. I'm happy to, of course, take your questions right now. But I would also say that you please visit our website and do follow us on our various social media handles. Do start off with the website first so that you can like us on Facebook and Instagram. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter as well. So yeah, thank you very much, and I'm pleased to take your questions now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nilay. This is Nisharani Ranpise from Sinhagad College of Pharmacy. Okay, it was a wonderful talk of yours, and I could
Thank
see
you.
the fire burning inside you, and your desire to do so many things. So it was really a nice talk. There are many questions for you. The first question, I think Amelia Madam can ask directly since she's
one question was that what was the unique selling point that you put forth to the angel investors, to convince them that okay, you just have to take this forward. Dr. Nilay, are you able to listen to us? Hello?
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble. Let me just check my
Yeah, now it's okay.
page.
Now it's okay.
Okay, now it's okay, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Could you
So
hear
are you
the
able to
question?
listen to me now?
Yeah, it seems
There's a
it seems fine now. It seems fine.
Ma'am,
Okay.
repeat the question, please.
Yeah. So, Dr. Neela, I just had one question was that what was the most important unique selling proposition that you put forth to the angel investors to convince them to, take your product forward and give funding for that?
Right. So I think when it came to angel investors, it works on two levels. There's the technology side and there's the commercial side. Okay, in terms of the technology, essentially what they want to see is something where you've developed, where you developed a product, a technology, or a service that is, potentially a massive improvement on whatever is available in the market. Okay, so they want to see that they want to see that you have you have patents in place, or that you are on the way to developing them, and that you have data showing that your product works and works really well. They um also at the same time want to look at the commercial side of it, and this is, for them, this is always the most important, because when they're putting in money, they're looking they're putting in money with a view to getting a return. Okay,
Yeah.
so there they want to see, okay, your technology, your product, your service, how large is the market for it? How large is it in India? How large is it throughout the world? What is the size of the opportunity? Who are your competitors? What exactly are their technologies? How are you better than them? What is how do you differentiate yourself? So these are some of the different questions. So it's for us, it's always been a mix between the technology side, and angel investors, by the way, will generally not doubt you on the technology, because they know that you come with the kind of background that no one else does, right? So they won't doubt you there. The commercial side is where they want to see a really strong picture, and
Okay.
if you're able to provide that, then it's good.
Okay. Thank you. Just one more. Can I ask, Dr. Nisha?
Yes, please.
So this was there in my mind since we started with this webinar process. So why do you think there are only few biotech or biomedical related, startups in India as compared to the US? because you find them in large number, as well as you have large number of software companies here as startups. But if you look at biomedical and biotech, they are very few. Why is it so like? Could you get the question? Hello?
Sorry, it's meant for Dr. Nisharani, right?
No, 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 it's for
No,
you
no.
only.
Oh, I see. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So the question here is, why are there so few? Uh, so the question is, why are there so few bio entrepreneurs in India as compared to the
Yeah.
US?
Hmm.
And what we can do about it. So I think it really comes down to what point of the curve you're at. I think, when it comes to startups in general, the US is generally further ahead in the game. It and it comes down to any kind of startup. It can be an e-commerce startup. It can be startups to do with pretty much anything. And biotech startups are no different. They basically, their universities are amongst the best in the world. They have great faculty, great students. I think this is not something where India is different. I think where the what they've grasped very early on, in their in their effort, is the need for, again, for people of different, for people from diverse backgrounds to talk to each other. Dr. Jere made a very pointed, we emphasized this point very strongly, and I would re-emphasize it. I think the fact that
Collaboration.
they're able to collaborate, with people from very diverse educational backgrounds, people with very diverse mindsets coming together to solve problems and come up with solutions. That is something that they started off, and which we're only where we're a little, where we're behind the curve. Okay, what that means
Hmm.
is, okay, so they've started off, and which means that they've got more startups. But I've seen in my 5 years there's been good catch up. Okay, I've seen
Okay.
in my 5 years that the US is probably starting to, the shine may be starting to wear off a little.
Okay.
So there's a lot of great ideas that are coming out from outside Europe, from outside the US, from outside Europe, which are now getting funded, and where we're getting some groundbreaking technologies. So, I think we're behind the curve, but we're getting there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
The next question is from Dr. Shilpa Shotriya. It's about the material you have patented and made. How is this material
Sorry,
helping?
I'm
And
hoping my connection is good now. Can you hear me?
yeah, we
Yes.
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
Can you hear us, sir?
Sure.
The question is
Yeah, yeah,
from,
sure.
yeah, yeah, the question is from Dr. Shilpa Shotriya. How is the material which you have prepared, how does it help in regeneration of the bones?
Okay, so the way these kinds of materials work is that they essentially have properties and characteristics that are quite close to the properties and characteristics of human bone. Okay, so what happens is, so the way, I mean, the way materials like this work is that when you implant them into the host site, into a bone tissue defect, for example, the body essentially recognizes immediately that this is not a foreign body material. Okay, but this is in fact a material that is that is very similar to the characteristics of the tissue itself, and that actually elicits a physiologically beneficial reaction. So in the case of bioactive glasses, when bioactive glasses are implanted into the bone defect site, they immediately start to resorb. They start to release ions, such as phosphorus, calcium, sodium, etc., at levels that are physiologically relevant for bone tissue growth. Okay, so what happens is that the surrounding bone tissue responds, and starts proliferating and growing on the surface. And then the growth keeps on, the growth continues as the material resorbs and more ions are released. So essentially that's why they're called bioactive materials. They're biologic. They invoke an active response from from the local tissue. Okay.
So there is no immunological response from the body.
So the idea there is that immunological response is something that happens typically when you have some level of protein content in your material. So this is immunological issues come up a lot when it comes to human derived or animal derived products, bone grafts, because you have allografts, you have xenografts that come from bone banks and so on. And there the idea, I mean, there the immunological response is always a risk. With the synthetics, one of the things about them is that you do not face these kinds of immunological issues because there's no matter in there that will provoke an immunological response.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah, can
Sure.
I make a request, sir? Could you please hold your mic a little? Yeah,
Okay, I continue to be
yes,
a lot less audible. I
yeah.
need to check that out.
Uh, yeah, fine. This is, I think, a similar question from Dr. Sugandha Mulgun is how do you ensure the biocompatibility of these synthesized bone or orthopedic grafts?
So biocompatibility is, I mean, so there's quite clearly defined pathways for assessing biocompatibility. You start off with, you make a material, and then you start off by doing in vitro cell culture work, where essentially you're culturing these materials with cells, and you're checking for the different for different criteria. Are these materials cytotoxic? Are they do they cause irritation? Do they inhibit bone growth, or do they actually aid in bone cell proliferation? You do that in vitro. Then if your results are good there, you move on to the next step, which is to carry out animal trials. Again, there you can assess for safety. You check whether your materials causing irritation or whether it's causing toxicity. That's on the safety side. On the efficacy side, you actually carry out, in our case, implantation studies where you implant the material into say a rabbit femur or into a beagle dog mandible. That's what we've done with our material. And then you assess, okay, how is the bone regeneration happening in those animal models. If your results there are also good, then you move into the clinical trial stage, where essentially in medical devices you're not doing the phase 1 to phase 4. It's slightly different method. It's called pilot trials and pivotal trials. In pilot trials you're assessing for safety. In pivotal trials you're assessing on a larger patient pool for both safety and efficacy. So that is
Okay,
how you basically how you assess the biocompatibility of your material.
okay. One question from my side. I happened to see your website and saw these two products, Syn Oyst and Porosyn, wherein in case of Syn Oyst, you have calcium, sodium, silica, phosphorus, oxygen, and in case of Porosyn, the silica is not there. So, can you throw some light on how they are different and how does it help in regeneration, or what's the difference between the two?
So now with Synost, I think the idea behind developing Synost was essentially that this was going to be like a generic product. Just as you have generic drugs, this was going to be a generic bone graft, in the sense that you have a commercially available product that's in the market. What we were going to do is we were going to essentially develop something that would be exactly the same, and same composition, same particle size, etc., etc., so that we would basically be able to go down the regulatory pathway of substantial equivalence. So and launch into the market a bit quicker. So the idea there, so that was the idea with Synost. Now with Synost, Synost comprises about 45% silica. Okay, and the idea there is that that silica is not actually found in human bone. Okay, when
Right.
you have a material that is almost half the material is made of something that's not found in native bone, well, you have a certain level of performance, but I think what we wanted to see with Porosin was that, okay, if you were to get rid of that silica entirely and to make it to make the material silica free, while at the same time retaining the properties of the base material as an amorphous as an amorphous bone regenerating material, how would you go about it? So you remove the material that is non-native, you replace it with, in our case, it's 50% phosphorus and the remaining parts being calcium and sodium. How do you, you know, then you basically had something that is far closer to the composition of human bone. Okay, so that was our approach when it came to, when it came to deciding on the how to what to do with Synost and what to do with Porosin.
Okay. So, um, Mandisa, do you have some message
No, no
you want
message.
to
No.
say?
Continue,
Okay.
continue, continue.
Okay. So then the question is, what is the biodegradability of silica? How
Biodegradability.
the silica, is it
You mean,
biodegradable? Is it biodegradable like?
so silica is basic. So the essential thing to understand here is what is the biodegradability of the actual material. The way it works is that when the material is implanted and it degrades post implantation, it isn't actually releasing silica as a substance. It is releasing or phosphorus or calcium, sodium, etc. It's not releasing them as substances. It's releasing them in ionic form. Okay,
Okay.
and silica ions, or phosphate ions and so on, are taken up by the body in ionic form, and then, depending on the host response, they play either a physiologically relevant role or they don't play any role at all. Okay, there is a lot of literature that says that silica does play a role in bone growth. There is literature that says that silica can have toxic effects. When silica ions can also have toxic effects. So it's always a sort of yes no kind of question. Is it, is it doing the right thing or is it not doing the right thing? But they're all definitely absorbed by the local tissue, all these ions.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir, for that. The next question is again from Dr. Mulgund. Are there any regulatory considerations for these biomaterials?
Mhm. So there are many regulatory considerations. I think when you're, um, as I said, developing technology, um, is developing technology for science or for developing IP is very different from developing biotech products for the market. Regulatory considerations are essentially down to, following the rules that have been set by the regulatory authorities in order to ensure that whatever you're selling, whatever product you're making and selling is safe and it performs its intended use. Okay, this is the basic guiding principle in all biotech regulation throughout the world. In India, regulatory considerations come down to whatever comes from the CDSCO, that's the apex. That's basically the apex regulatory body in India for these products. They have you have the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, which essentially provides all the different rules to be followed when you want to make and market drugs. Similarly, for medical devices, you have the Indian medical device rules, which have come into place since 2018. Again, a lot of, I mean, all the different rules that need to be followed in order to basically show that your product is safe and that it is that it carries out its intended, that it shows its intended performance when given to patients. So I would encourage you to actually look up the CDSCO website, to download the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, to download the Indian Medical Device Rules, and to, of course, talk to a lot of talk to regulatory experts in order to interpret these rules. As part, for bio entrepreneurs, I would say this should be one of the first things that you do when you go down the journey.
Okay. The next question is from a student Anushri Virkhare. How we
Sure.
can determine the strength of the bone graft?
Strength. So strength is probably having the right mechanical strength is like the ideal goal for any kind of bone graft. It is worth looking at the intended use for these kinds of products, and I don't just mention my product; it's for any product that's available in the market. These are meant for use in non-load bearing environments. Okay, they can be used by themselves only in areas of the body where the loads are not such that the material basically disintegrates and is basically is removed from the site because of the loads acting on it. Okay, so when it comes to mechanical strength, you can assess the mechanical strength of these products. And I'm guessing the student is talking about the mechanical strength, right?
Yeah, right.
So with the mechanical strength, I mean, there's very straightforward materials testing techniques you can use. You have compression testing, you've got shear testing, tensile strength. Very the kinds of material, the kinds of test methods that you would use for concrete are the kinds of methods that you would use for these materials as well. Except
Okay.
that you'd be looking at very different values of strength and um, and other mechanical properties. So the idea there is that, of course, you want to increase mechanical strength, but you want to do it while retaining the overall ability of the material to evoke the right response. If you make changes in the material properties to get better strength, but it happens at the expense of the material, of the bioactive nature of the material, then you haven't really solved the problem. Okay, so getting that trade-off during the product development, getting your that trade-off right during your R&D, that becomes quite important.
So tell me something. This material of yours is like, is it injected? It is placed as a part, or what exactly? How it is placed for bone regeneration?
Sure. So, materials like these are available in different forms. You have them in granule form, you have them in paste form, where you can actually inject them into the site using a syringe or using, they've got these cartridge guns, and they're available in block form for larger defects. So, it really comes down to the type of material that the form of the material comes down a lot. Number one, to the nature of the defect, and also to the comfort level of the surgeon that will be carrying out the bone grafting surgery, because there are certain surgeons that prefer using the pastes because they're very easy to
Yes.
uh, just fill into the site. There are others who are okay with who are actually more comfortable with using the particles, because they can then basically mix those particles. They need to be mixed with something, some sort
Okay.
of fluid medium. So they
Mm.
can then decide, okay, do I want to mix it with saline, do I want to mix it with patient blood, do I want to mix it with with serum, for example. Different things. They can do a lot of mix and match in the OT or in the clinic before implantation. So it really depends on the nature of the site and the comfort level of the dentist or the surgeon.
Okay. Next question is from Tosim Mulani. He's saying graphs have decaying or delocalization property due to multiple factors. How do you overcome this problem?
Let me understand the question correctly. We're talking about.
Graphs graphs have decaying
Mhm.
or delocalization property. So
Okay.
how do you overcome it?
So, uh, that is actually not a property that necessarily needs to be overcome, because I mean, uh, we refer to we refer to this property as resorption. Okay. And
Okay.
these materials are actually meant to resorb over a certain period of time, and as they resorb, they're supposed to be replaced by, they're supposed to be replaced by normal human bone. Okay.
Natural, yeah.
So by natural bone. So it's not necessarily a, resorbability is not a bad thing. What you
Mm-hmm.
want to be doing with the material is to be able to modify the resorption so that it either resolves slowly or it resolves quickly, depending on what part of the human bone system you place it in. Because there'll be
Mm-hmm.
certain places um, where you need quick resorption. There'll be certain places where you need slower resorption. It all really depends on the biology of the implant site. So resorption or is not something to overcome. It is something to be, I would say, modulated depending on the characteristics of the host site.
Okay. Uh, so this material you have mainly tried for the dentistry, right?
First off, yes.
Yeah, but this can be used for other body bones or, as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So our target customer base is not just dentists but also orthopedic surgeons. The
Mm-hmm.
reason that we went down the dentistry path is that basically, there are a little more. It's a little more easy to navigate the regulatory side of
Hmm.
product development and market launch when it comes to dentistry. But having said that, orthopedics represents the bigger market. If you're,
Right.
say, using maybe a gram or so of this material in a
Hmm.
dental surgery, you may be using 5 to 10 grams in a typical orthopedic surgery. So,
Right.
for us, that would obviously be a logical next step.
Okay. The next question is, could you elaborate more on the big grant and the measures required for writing the big grant?
Sure. So the BIG grant is basically meant for the very initial stages of product development and commercialization. So essentially, if you're just starting off on your entrepreneurial journey and you need funding in order to, you have an idea and you need funding to validate that idea and to convert an idea into a proof of concept for a product or a service, you then BIRAC has this, BIRAC has specifically tailored this scheme for that. So the way it works is that, they have an online application, where they focus on there are many different parts to that application, but the important parts is they want to understand, okay, what is the idea, what is the novelty, what is the national or social relevance, what is what is inventive about the idea that you are wanting to work on. Then, basically, how are you going, what is your work plan going to be? I mean, these are typically 18-month projects. So what are you going to be doing over the next 18 months? What is your plan going to be like? And then, how much money are you going to be consuming from different budget heads, manpower, consumables, outsourcing, etc., etc. So they want a clear plan on many of these things. Now, I've seen from my experience that there they may not be very hard taskmasters when it comes to um, whether or not you have your business models absolutely ready, and you have you've understood the commercial side completely. What they want to see is whether you're able to overcome the first major challenge, which is to convert idea into proof of concept. If you're
Hmm.
able to make that come across in your application, then you're good to go.
Okay. Okay. Next question is from Ashutosh Kumar. If any funding agency is ready to fund us, but in the midst, if your idea fails, so then what are the effects and what steps should be taken in this situation?
Okay,
Could you?
okay. So what happen? So what exactly happens when things don't work out, when things fail,
Yeah,
right?
right. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. And we're talking about, probably government agencies and grants and so on.
Yes, yes. They're ready to give you the grant. You have already got it, but then something goes wrong.
So it's worth going into the whole uh, philosophy or the rationale behind having these grants for bio entrepreneurship in the first place. When these funding agencies, and I have to credit Byrack for this, because they have had, they have the idea, they've had this idea, and they've, for bio entrepreneurship, for basically creating this entire ecosystem. And they've understood it very clearly right from the start, is that not all the ideas that they fund are going to succeed. Okay, they are basically, it for them, it's really a question of, uh it's really a question of basically looking at the entrepreneur and seeing, okay, is this someone who has a good chance of taking things to the next stage? Okay, now if things don't work out, then it's okay. BIG does not involve you having to return money to the government if things don't happen. Okay, that's
Okay,
not the idea behind these grants. If things
okay,
don't work out, they don't work out. Okay, if the
okay.
technology fit was, or if the technology hasn't exactly delivered what you promised it would,
Hmm.
well, that's
Hmm.
okay, because science is science at the end of the day. You can't,
Hmm.
things can work, and things may not work. So it's understood. I think it's understood by grant funding agencies. Down the line, it's understood by angel investors, that these are early stage companies that are quite risky, and the risks of failure are quite high. But it's still okay, because if your idea does succeed, then the benefits would be huge. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's what they're looking for, and they're okay for things not to
Hmm.
go according to plan.
Okay. Thanks. There's
Sure.
one more question from Toshi Mulani. One of the failure of startup was partner distrust. How do we deal with it?
I think that is a profound question. How do you deal with partners that fall out? um so I think the first thing to understand here is that these kinds of partnerships between co-founders, partnerships between yourself and your angel investors, partnerships between yourself and venture capitalists, or even with strategic partners like other companies that may want to manufacture your product or sell your product. They're actually a lot like marriages. Okay, you're really choosing partners that you're going to be working with day in day out for years at a stretch. Okay, with a co-founder, you will be working with that same person for for as long as your company is in existence, right? So if you want your company to be existence for as long as possible, it is important for the partners to be on the right wavelength, and to have the right values and the right ideas about how to build the company right from the start. Okay, so I would actually say that it's almost like it's almost like picking your right life partner, right? You're looking for the right values. Is this a person who I want to spend the rest of my life with? Essentially the same, I mean, very similar criteria apply when you're choosing your co-founder. Is this the kind of person that I want to spend that I want to work with day in day out to grow this company? When you approach things, and what that means is that there needs to be a lot of talk, there needs to be a lot of discussion, a lot of brainstorming with potential partners, um, I mean, with potential co-founders, before you come to that sort of decision. So often what happens there is that the best co-founders are those that have worked with each other previously in some capacity, where they might
Hmm.
have been research students doing their
Hmm.
PhDs in the same department. That's how it was with Google, right? With Larry Page and Sergey Brin. They might be people who have worked in they might be people who have worked in the same company as employees and then went out and started their own thing. That's what happened with Sachin Bansal, Binny Bansal, and Flipkart. They were working with Amazon before. Um, it's that sort of thing. So finding the right co-founder is really about making sure that the values and so on are in sync, and ideal sources for founders, co-founders, are people in within your network who you know and trust since several years.
Okay.
That would be how you ensure that that level of distrust doesn't happen. Having said
Okay.
that, things can change and you have to be
Yeah.
ready for it. The
Right.
communication between founders has to be continuous. You have to continue to be talking to each other and sort of sharing your vision and working together. It's a day in day out sort of thing. So and again, that's like just like any just like a marriage. you I mean, you're essentially it's the relationship building and relationship maintenance in their own way are they're an everyday thing. So
Yeah.
it's the same way with co-founders.
Okay. Now, next question is from a student, Rutvik. After the bone tissue has been developed, the material is excreted out from the body. I guess you had mentioned
No.
about the ions getting released slowly. Is that the way it is
Mm-hmm.
degrading?
Exactly. So it's releasing ions which are then taken up by the body. Okay, and depending on the response of depending on whether that ion has a role to play in repair of the surrounding tissue, it gets taken up by the tissue, and then the tissue is stimulated to form repair. If it has no role to play in the growth of the surrounding tissue, then the body just takes it up and it goes down your regular excretory pathways.
Okay. Okay. Another question is does the material have the tendency to interact with drugs? And what is the duration of the functionality of the product?
Okay, so the first question is, does the material have the tendency to interact with drugs? Do
With
we
drugs,
mean
yeah.
that
Can we
if
deliver
it's
drugs through
I
this
see.
too?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a very, I think that is where a lot of the science is headed when it comes to these products. You want to be able to
Hmm.
combine them not only with, you want to be able to combine them with drugs so that, you're able to possibly speed up the process of bone formation, or you're able to inhibit microbial activity as the healing process happens. That is one thing. And then you're actually going into a lot of very state of the art work when it comes to incorporating materials with stem cells and growing the growing tissue engineered constructs in vitro before you implant them into the patient for even better outcomes. So yes,
Okay.
drugs, and I would say biomolecules, so proteins, and then cells,
Hmm.
tissue types can all, and that's where the science is headed. Okay, combining all of
Hmm.
this to create even better bone grafts. So that's one thing. I think the second question was, what was the
What
second
is
part
the
of the question?
duration of the functionality of the
Right.
product?
So typically, these products are meant to stay in are meant to stay within the site over a period of several months. So typically, a 4 to 6 month time span is what is prescribed by a dentist or an orthopedic surgeon for the material to be present within the site and for the bone regeneration process to happen. It's basically down to how the whole process of bone repair works and what time it takes for bone repair to happen from say t equal to 0 to or from the point where there is the defect to the point where there's the defect is gone and there's only human bone.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we can go on and on, I guess, but my colleagues are
No.
saying like we need to stop here. One last question, if my colleagues don't mind. Okay, last,
Sure.
okay, absolutely last. There is one
Yeah, go
question
ahead.
from one of the students is it better to go abroad for masters, PhD, for research work, for global exposure, okay, and then come back to
Mm.
India?
again, interesting question, because a few years ago, maybe a few years ago, I would have said absolutely yes.
Okay.
You should be going out. You should be going to the to top institutes throughout the world to, get there, because you not only understand how problems are solved in the best possible way, you get to interact with people from so many different diverse backgrounds. Again, I mentioned the word diversity again and again. Um, so this is something that I would have said a few years ago. Uh, Today, I would slightly qualify that by saying that India is catching up quite well.
Okay.
I think some of the best ideas are coming out of research that is being created by students with no who have not gone abroad. Okay,
Okay.
and
Mm-hmm.
you don't really need to have an international experience to launch a startup. You don't need to have international experience to grow a startup and to make a successful startup. I think what international experience does is that it does give you the kind of exposure that would can add value. But if your grounding in the science is strong, if you have the right idea, if you surround yourself with the right people, and if you may be domestic, you may have studied here, but if you have global ambition, then you're on the right track, and you don't need to go abroad to do any of for any of that. I mean, you can be
Okay.
right
Okay.
here with local training, local education, but global ambition, and you can still do a fantastic job.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Nilay. It was really interesting, and I can go on and on, but then time's up, I guess. And Sugandha, I'll take you. I mean, you can take over.
Okay. Thank you, madam, and thank you, Dr. Nilay, for such an exhaustive session. Uh,
Sure.
participants, participants, I have a few instructions for you. Tomorrow we'll start at 10 a.m. sharp. Tomorrow we have two sessions. The third session will be Dr. Anuya Nisal, and her topic will be Unleashing the Potential of Silk Biomaterials in Regenerative Medicine. Our second talk for tomorrow will be by Dr. Venkat Palle, and Sir will be highlighting approaches to the antiviral drug discovery. At the end of day, please ensure that you have filled the assessment and feedback link which has been posted in the description box. I will repeat, the assessment and feedback link has been posted in the description box of the YouTube. It has not been posted in the chat box. Please keep it in mind. So kindly give your feedback and assessment form. This link is valid only till 3 p.m. today. We thank you once again for your response, and we ensure that you will again join tomorrow sharp at 10 a.m. Thank you very much. We will be ending the live broadcasting too. Thank you very much.